That ain't good. Alright, let me show you what's making the noise. We're behind the driver's side rear. Well, there's your problem. Alright, so I'm going to take this rotor off. I've got to remove these bolts, upper and lower, for the caliper, and then the caliper bracket bolt, which is right here. There's one here and one below. Then we'll get this rotor off and we'll inspect what's going on. Alright, the caliper bolts upper and lower are 17 millimeter. Okay, got those two bolts out. I'm just going to use my pry bar. Right off that caliper. I could use a clamp and push in on the brake pads and the caliper bracket, and I could push that piston in, but I just oftentimes will just use my pry bar. Okay, these are 18 millimeter bolts for the caliper bracket. Those broke loose surprisingly well. Sometimes they don't play nice. Okay, now that we got the bracket off, we can remove the rotor. Now, the inside of these drums, you can tell that they're a little thicker. The emergency brake shoes are inside this rotor. So getting the rotor off of the hub can be a chore, especially if those brake shoes are good and everything's in there nice and snug. If you get a little bit of corrosion, your rotor could stick to the hub. Sometimes there's a little hole you can put a bolt in. You can tighten the bolt and it'll pry the rotor away from the hub. But if you notice, this comes off really easily, so I don't have to worry about it. So now you can see what's behind it, and it is this horseshoe looking thing. That is the parking brake shoe. You can see there's some brake pad right here. It's actually broken, and this is what is flopping around. Okay, this little bolt right here holds this little retaining clip. What this thing needs is a brand new shoe and some new hardware, since this is all rusted. Alright, this is only held in these little slots right here. So if we pry this out, that comes off. See if we can pry this apart and take it off. Little rascal. You can definitely tell this thing has not been working for a while, because it is really rusted. It's got holes in it. This whole assembly is pretty rusted out bad. Looks like it's going to need a whole new backing. It's all rusted. Again, there's the hardware that's supposed to be holding this thing in place. Alright, we're back with the GMC Sierra, and we've got ourselves a new set of parking brake shoes. They are a Duralast part 781. These are like $25 after tax. Just compare the two. They look identical, so that's good. It even comes with hardware. It looks like we got some instructions, which is kind of rare. I don't usually see instructions in parts from like AutoZone and stuff. We've got a diagram on it. Be a little bit tricky. The dust shield number 8 is completely gone on this, so that would probably be advisable to purchase that. The owner just got the parking brakes pads, so no big deal, I guess. Maybe something we replace in the future, but for right now we're just going to get this thing drivable and put the new parking brake pads on. Alright, I don't mind telling you, I'm having the awfulest time trying to get this screw out for the hardware. It's pretty rusty, but I'm starting to round that nut off on that little screw, and I'm afraid I'm going to break the bolt. I think I'll just leave it, and what I'm going to do now is kind of take apart this stuff right here. I've cleaned it up just a little bit already, and apply some brake caliper grease and make sure that's all well lubricated. We'll go ahead and put this shoe back on after I clean this up. Just gonna make sure that's all well lubricated with some fresh grease. That's got some good grease in it now. Alright, I'm ready to put the shoe on. I'm going to do it with the branding out towards me. It's going to be kind of tricky getting this over the hub. You're going to sort of kind of have to angle it. Not too hard. I want to make sure that the inside of the shoe fits in this little slot where this spring is connected. It needs to fit inside there. And that spring's going to give it just enough tension to keep that in place. Again, we've got this edge on the shoe. We want to make sure that spring is on the inside of this edge. I just want to make sure that we're in the groove on this cylinder, and I gotta put this one in yet, but I'll also make sure that our spring is on the inside. So what I'm going to do is take my screwdriver and I'm going to push on the shoe to spread it, and then with my other hand I'm going to try to guide it into that slot. Now I'm going to adjust this gear going clockwise. We'll tighten it. We want this to be a little bit tighter. It's looking pretty loose, so we want to tighten this down so we don't get any of that rubbing noise or clanging noise that we had before. I have adjusted this quite a few turns, so this is probably going to be too much to put this rotor back on, but you can see that this is definitely tighter. It's not flopping around like it was just a second ago. All right, I'm going to put the rotor on, and we want some resistance. We don't want it to be terribly tight, but just a nice snug fit with some resistance is perfect. All right, let's see if this will even fit. Probably not. I think I tightened it too much. Yeah, too much. Take two. Okay, that's not bad. Alright, that may just be a little too loose, so let's go ahead and tighten that back up. There we go. It's a little bit better. I may tighten it just a smidge more. Alright, that'll do. Alright, now I'm going to push the emergency brake in.
Don't hurt yourself now. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay, so I cannot turn that up. Alright, so we know that the emergency brake cable and everything still is working pretty good. There we go. Cool. I like to put a lug nut on, that way the rotor stays in place when I go to put the brake hardware back on. Alright, I'm going to put these 18mm bolts back in. Now would be a good time to maybe go through, and if you got some grease up these slides. Keep the brakes from squeaking if it needs it. I'm going to use my clamp to compress the piston. That way the caliper can go on easier. Don't need to go real deep with it, but just enough to get it to slide on easy, like that. I've got my 17mm bolts. This is a 17 millimeter head. There's a 18 millimeter bolt right here that you can get a wrench on. If this is spinning, you'll need to hold that tight and then tighten this 17 millimeter down. All right, so that's all back together. We're ready to put the tire back on. And I'm going to attack the other side and replace those parking brake shoes as well. And then we'll get the truck back down on the ground, pump the brakes a few times, and go take it for a test spin and see how we did. All right, I gave that one quick shot of brake clean one last time. Passenger side now, this is the bolt that I couldn't get out on the other side because it was rounding the little screw. And anyway, so that's the hardware that you got to remove to get the shoe off. And here's the new one. It's gonna look like that. So, all right, I've got all the lug nuts tightened down on the rear wheels. I'm gonna go ahead and start the car. Just gonna pump the brakes a few times. It was really soft at first, but now it's building up. So the rear calipers are now back where they're supposed to go. So that's that. Well, there you have it. That's how you replace the parking brake shoes on a 2003 GMC Sierra. It pretty well goes for pretty much any one of these body types. So if I was to have a problem with the parking brake, let's say I push the pedal and I don't have much resistance on that parking brake pedal, number one, I would check the cable to see if the cable's broken. And two, I would check the adjuster on that little cylinder where the brake shoes connect. Maybe that needs to be widened to help put some more resistance of the pads on the rotor itself. Anyway, that's all there is to it. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Check out my channel. I got all kinds of repairs on the Sierra, my Silverado, my Trailblazer, got a Camaro, and I've done some work on an old Yukon and stuff. So check out all that, and I've got some fun videos on there too. So if it earns your subscription, please subscribe and hit that bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. As always, thanks for watching. God bless. Be sure to hit that like switch on your way out. Like a boss.